Good evening and welcome to another episode of Late Night with Lenette. I'm Lenette Peterson, your host. My guest this evening is our very own Senator Gary Daniels. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lenette.
It's always a pleasure to see you. Now, first you were a state representative for Milford, Amherst, and that was it, isn't it?
Well, actually, there's a long combination
Yeah, exactly.
of things. I represented Milford and Amherst for about 6 years, Milford alone for about 10 years, and then New Boston, Mount Vernon, Milford, and Hollis at the last term.
You've been in there for quite a while.
18 years.
There you go. And now Senator Daniels is the state senator for Merrimack. He is our district senator. Now, how was the transition from House to Senate?
Well, obviously the pay is the same. So I kind of kid people and say that my hourly wage has gone lower.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's been interesting, especially having been in the House, and it's actually kind of refreshing. I still work very closely with a lot of people in the House that I've built up relationships with over the year, and that certainly helps on getting bills through.
Oh, yeah.
And
now, it must be nice to have staff.
It is, but the staff is someone like home. They give you a sheet in the morning and they tell you where to go during the day.
Oh, gotcha.
And but it certainly helps with the organization, because in the Senate we have to serve on 3 committees. So I'm on Judiciary, which happens to be one of the heaviest ones in the Senate, as well as Transportation, which I asked to be on to try to handle the roads and bridges aspect of my community. And then I asked also to be on Capital Budget, which they made me the chair.
Oh, nice.
Of that. So that one actually is kind of low work on that. We didn't have nearly as many bills as we do on some of the others, but just as important, though.
Yeah, the Judiciary is always a tough one. I was on the House Judiciary for 2 terms, and we always had a ton of bills. It's a busy committee, I guess, in the Senate as well.
Well, and it's not just the bills. It's the type of bills that are coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it really puts you in a position where you can see both sides of an issue, but you have to make a decision. And I guess a good example of that would be, we've been trying hard to fight the opioid crisis in the state. And, the bill came through for Narcan. And as we were talking about that in Judiciary, I got to wondering, is this, I understand the purpose of it, but is this going to be something that those who are addicted are going to use as a safety tool,
right?
And say, well, it doesn't matter how many times I do it because I can always be brought back.
Exactly. Is it going to enable them to actually try to get some help?
So that was a difficult decision. I voted for the bill, but interestingly enough, within 2 weeks after we passed that out of the Senate, there was a report from someone in Manchester who had overdosed 6 times in one day, and they used Narcan to bring him back. So
where do you draw the limit? 6 times in one day is a bit much.
Yeah.
And think of the cost of sending the emergency crews out 6 times in one day. I mean, did it require emergency crews going out 6 times for one person? The expense is...
Yeah, well, I think we're trying to fight this war on 2 different fronts. First of all, we do need to take care of and address those who are addicted and try to get them help. But I think the next step, and it's a very important step, is we need to take a serious look as to why this is happening to begin with.
Right.
And that goes into a lot of things, regardless of crime or just illegal activity. We need to take a look and say, what is it about society that is, causing these people to go this route?
Right, exactly. Yeah, they get down to the bottom, get to the meat of the issue, find out what the bottom issue is. Why is this happening?
And I think personally, I think that's going to be a much more difficult issue to address than just trying to deal with the effects of addiction.
I'm sure. Now, you spend so much time in the House, and House sessions can be quite entertaining. What's session like in the Senate?
Well, I find it, for the most part, much shorter.
I'm sure, extremely.
But that happens. I mean, look at the makeup of the Senate. We have 24 senators.
Right.
When I compare it to the House, it's really not that much different than just working with your House committee. You know, the House committees have 20, 21 people on them, and so when you come in to vote on issues, you pretty much know how everyone in the committee is going to vote.
Right.
On that. And the same way in the Senate. I mean, there's a closeness there, the same type of closeness that you might have with people in your committee. Now, having been in the House, I'm sure that there are people over the years that I have never met.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
In the House, but yet you get to know the people on your committee pretty well. You know, their personal lives and philosophies, things like that, and so it is with the Senate. Is that we do things together, and you get to know the colleagues that you're working with, and you know, it's surprising how much we have in common.
Oh, wow.
On some issues.
Oh, very good. Yeah, with only having 24, definitely counts down with the number of speakers going to the well.
Yes, absolutely.
Also cuts down, I'm sure, on the number of bills as well. And most of the bills come from the House than the Senate.
Most of the bills come from the House, but I think you gave us more than we started with.
Oh, I'm sure.
In the Senate.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I do thank the House for whittling those down, because if we were going to get bombarded with 800 bills, that would be a little bit of an overload. I mean, as it is, I think we ended up with 58 bills in judiciary, which happened to be the most of any committee.
Wow. Yeah, I remember my freshman term, the first year of my freshman term, Judiciary had 88 bills, the House Judiciary. And yeah, that was a bit much.
Yeah, you learn how to live there.
Oh, yeah. Now, are you finding that you put more hours in as a senator? I mean, you are on 3 committees, but even just one committee, is there more work in the Senate than the House, or is it pretty comparable?
I think when you look at the whole scheme of things, it's probably somewhat comparable.
Yeah.
Number one, you know, I do have an assistant that helps me with my scheduling, getting things set for the day. So that's time that I could use on something else. When I chaired labor over in the House, there was extra time there because you had to hang around and make sure people wrote their majority and minority reports and okay those. So, you know, I think that I think overall it's probably somewhat comparable, but it would all depend on what your position was in the House.
Right.
And I think the other thing is, as you know, because you've been there, this is one of those jobs that you can put in as much or as little time.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, there's certainly plenty of issues that need to be addressing. So I have spent some extra time doing research.
Oh, good.
On things,
Yeah.
and but we do have the Senate research, just like the House has the Office of Legislative Services to do some of that research too. So
yeah, and that's a huge help.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, oh yeah. Although I have to laugh, my husband figured out my salary per hour the first year in the House, and he said he graciously rounded up to 3 cents an hour.
You get a raise.
I said, I'm not doing it for the money, obviously.
No, I think that's one thing, and that's actually a very nice thing about New Hampshire, and I think
exactly
makes the legislature very helpful to the people, is that you haven't got people there trying to be career politicians for the money. I mean, they truly are up there, and everybody is sacrificing something.
Right.
You know,
and since there's so many of them, with 400 state reps, no one can have their own agenda. No one can try to, even try to take over a committee or take over a bill. There's just too many people. Right. There's no way.
On the bright side and the positive side, with 400 people there, there's chances are there's somebody there that has your opinion.
Exactly. Yep. Now, were there any surprises that you weren't expecting about going to the Senate?
Yes. I knew about the 3 committees that I'd have to be on. So I put in for those. It was the email on I think it was 40 to 50 statutory committees.
Wow.
They said, okay, here's the list, sign up for the ones you want. these would be things like the Workers' Comp Advisory Council, or I'm on the Interbranch Juvenile Justice Committee Council. They basically study the juvenile crime. There's other things.
And how many of these do you have to be on?
Well, I think I ended up on about 5 or 6 of them. I'm on JELCAR,
Yep.
Joint Committee on Legislative Administrative Rules. I mean, that can take up a lot of time. We just had the Bobcat bill.
Right.
Now I have to say I'm an alternate.
Gotcha.
On that.
Now, with these, you said they're emails that you just.
It was an email from the Chief of Staff.
Oh, gotcha. Oh.
Saying, okay, these are our X number of statutory committees. Sign up for the ones you want to be on. But then, if you didn't sign up, it sort of became like the service all over again, and you get the letter that you were appointed.
Yeah, better select than be selected.
Yeah, at least you get something that you might be interested in.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. And how much time do those require? Do they meet like once a month?
Yeah, usually a JELCAR is twice a month, but the others are all pretty much once a month, and they're scattered around. Sometimes they're on a Monday, sometimes they're on a Friday. They're rarely on days that that we have committees.
Oh, good.
Because the committee days are so packed full.
Right.
You really haven't got time to fit those in. So Mondays and Fridays, just like the House,
Yeah.
used to be the more free days. So that's when we find those. Or if you have something like capital budget overview, which doesn't usually take a long time, well, they might stick that on a Thursday, but Thursday is our session day too. So it all depends on how long we expect that session to last.
Right, yeah. Now, sessions, I'm sure, go a lot shorter than in the House. Less speakers. And
yes, I've enjoyed getting through and going over and sitting in the gallery watching the House.
And just saying, oh, I'm glad I'm not there anymore.
There are some days.
I'm sure. Now, what do you think will happen with Medicaid expansion in the Senate?
Oh, Medicaid expansion has passed the Senate.
It's already passed the
And
Senate.
in fact, the governor signed it into law yesterday.
Yeah. It's depressing.
Well, it's, the real question is here, are we willing to look down the road to see what's going to happen? There were, and I ended up voting against Medicaid expansion. There were primarily four reasons. Number one, Medicaid expansion has no asset requirement. Unlike Medicaid, which it's asset and income requirements, Medicaid expansion only looks at your income. So, I could own a villa on Lake Winnipesaukee with my yacht moored on the lake, but just having a trickle of income coming in, and the taxpayers would be picking up my health care.
Yeah, that's right.
Secondly, the bill that we passed has a work requirement in it. But like many other states who have asked for a waiver or who have asked for the work requirement to be part of it, the federal government has always cut that out.
Oh, wow.
So what that means is that we would have people that we could be supporting on health care with no requirement that they be working.
Right.
Secondly, there was a House amendment put in to address veterans, because veterans can get their care from the VA or a program called VA Choice. The amendment that was put in by the House would allow veterans to get the Medicaid expansion if they were not able to get the care from the VA or VA Choice. But the House also stuck in an amendment to sever that too, so they could actually cut that out, so our veterans could be left
Oh, what a shame.
hanging without care. And the third one had to do with being a U.S. citizen and a New Hampshire resident. And,
That should be a must, I think.
well, we thought so too.
Yeah.
But again, a severability clause was put in that allows the federal government to take that out.
Ugh.
And basically, when they do that, it says you can get health care. It doesn't matter whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, or a New Hampshire resident or not. And I felt that was just totally wrong.
Oh yeah.
I might have supported the bill if the severability clause had been taken out, but for those reasons, I couldn't see that it was good. The other thing that I'm concerned about is that we were told in the last term that if Medicaid expansion was cut by the federal government, that the program would go away. Well, the federal government did cut 10%, but now hospitals and insurers have said, well, we'll pick up the other 5%. But they haven't said that they're not going to make up that money by raising the premiums
Right, exactly.
on people's health care.
Exactly.
So, and each year, each 2 years, that amount that the federal government pays is getting ratcheted down.
Right.
So the question is, at what point in time are we going to be so deeply in the hole that we can't get our way out?
Exactly.
So I know there are some of us who are already looking for other ways to come up with a New Hampshire solution to this. What we passed out of the Senate and out of the House and the governor signed was certainly not a New Hampshire solution.
No, not at all. Now, do you think this could end up leading to a state income tax in New Hampshire?
Well, I think that I've heard that talk around before.
Yeah.
Whether it would or not, I really can't say. But
Right.
as I said, I think it's more important that some of us are willing to look at alternate ways to do this to avoid even getting to that kind
Right.
of situation.
And why should New Hampshire taxpayers pay for medical funding for non-citizens? You got to be a citizen in New Hampshire and a U.S. citizen. It's only right. And to cut veterans, but non-residents, that's just so wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong. Okay, now, as a senator, your district's a lot bigger than the House.
It is.
How many constituents, roughly?
About 50,000.
Wow, a lot more.
It's a step over the 3921 or whatever I had before.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, about that. Yeah, 3921. Now, bigger district, more constituents. How's that been working for you? Is it more of a problem?
No, I actually enjoy it.
Yep.
When I first ran, one of the things I tried to make clear to the voters that I wasn't going up there believing that I had all the answers, but I believed that with feedback, with input from them, that we could find those solutions that we needed to the problems we were facing. And so one of the things I have enjoyed is actually, and it's probably counter to a lot of the people, is I'm getting much more mail.
Oh, I'm sure.
With that mail comes a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
But with that mail also comes, I see clumps of letters that are form letters.
I used to get those as a state rep, and it's nothing worse than a form letter.
Well, it's nice that people send something in.
Right.
But sometimes I have to question whether they even know about it.
Exactly.
Because if I look at the email address, it's coming from like advocacy@mylegislator.org. So I don't even know if people know that their names are being put in on these letters.
I know.
But one thing I would like to tell the viewers though is that when you want to give input to me, please don't use a form letter, but put your own words there and give me reasons why I should support or not support a bill. Those are the things that help me out. I'm looking to try to get my arms around an issue. I don't think of all the things, but certainly some of the input that I have had has really helped. When I get the form letters, once I see one is same, I will look and I will see if they came from my district.
Yep.
I will normally just delete form letters that do not come from my district.
Yeah, I used to just delete form letters in general, even from my district, because I found out from one person, just by clicking on the site, I mean, she did nothing else. She went to the site, she looked around, she opened a few things, read a few things, and I got a form letter from her. And she never wanted to contact, she didn't hit anything that says contact a state rep, nothing. But from opening certain windows and just going into this site, she ended up sending, because I called her on it, and I said, why don't you just send me a note? Why don't you just call me? And it was, and she never hit anything saying contact the state rep. Now, how about robocalls? Have you been hit with robocalls at all?
Not since the primary left New Hampshire.
There you go. And I got targeted once by NARAL, being on the House Judiciary. I'm definitely pro-life. And there was a spot on their site, because I went and looked, and if you clicked on this one site, you called my house to let me know that, well, you didn't know who you were calling. You were just calling that you were in support of their, it was obviously a pro-abortion bill. You called my house to voice your opinion. And in 1 week, we got inundated with phone calls, thanks to NARAL.
No, actually, I will say that the phone calls I have received have been very good.
Oh, nice.
And I don't think I've received any robocalls.
Nice.
From that. They are personal calls. I do answer the calls.
Yep.
Or if I'm not available, I will call back. My assistant may take a message to call back. But no, I do appreciate the calls that come in, and I try to be timely in my response back to them.
Yeah, that's nice having an office, and they can call your office. As state rep, they would call your home, and I always answered the phone calls at home. But it's nice if you can separate it and have the calls at the office.
You might actually be more effective calling the office.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Than calling at home, too. But sometimes I show up in the evening at home.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Now, is there anything that's the highlight of being a senator compared to a state rep?
Well, I get to park underneath the garage so I don't have to clean the snow off the car.
That would be a major plus, although this was an easy winter. Last winter would have been a good... Oh, that's right, you were a state senator last winter. Yeah, that was brutal. Having a garage spot, must be nice.
And I've kind of chuckled because the Senate president and the dean of the House, the dean of the Senate, they all have parking spaces outside.
Right, yeah.
As well as the governor's parking space. And I say, I just assume walk and not have to clean off the car. But now I think the biggest thing is, territorial. It really hasn't changed that much because I was representing 4 towns in the House.
Right.
Before I switched over to the Senate, and I represent 4 towns now. So, I try to keep up with what's going on in the town. I know that there've been some issues lately with water.
Yes. You've heard of that.
I have heard of that. The department let me know. I think probably one of the biggest changes I see is people want to talk to you more.
Oh, wow.
And when
more prestige, you're a senator.
No, I don't. Well, I don't know why they think it's going to be more effective talking face to face than over the phone. But I tend to have a lot more meetings with people requesting to meet with me, even if it's just for 10 minutes.
Well, it might also be easier because you have an office.
I do.
I mean, trying to catch up with a state rep and set up a time to meet with a state rep, without an office, you can meet in the cafeteria, meet in the hallway, meet in the committee room. At least they can get you focused in your office.
I think the big thing is they only have to concentrate on 24 people, not 400.
That helps. Yeah, that helps as well. Now, how many are on each committee?
We have 5 on each committee.
Okay, yeah.
And can't say that we're all there during her hearings.
Yeah.
We had a transportation hearing yesterday where 4 out of the 5 of us were out testifying on our bills that were over in the House, so there was only one person
right
there until the others got back. But we try to manage. I mean, there is courtesy extended in the Senate, and I think that's one of the big things. If you were in the House and I had a bill over in the Senate, I would leave the House chambers and go over, but they wouldn't halt business
right
for me. But
right.
What they will do in the Senate is extend courtesy so that if they expect a roll call, that they will either table that until you get back, so that you'll be there for the roll call.
Oh, nice.
And that's
nice. Especially there's so few few of you, 24. I mean, it's important to make sure you're there for all the votes.
Yeah, you couldn't do that with 400.
No, no, that's like herding cats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the other big thing is when you have roll calls in the House.
Yeah.
It usually takes 5 to 10 minutes to get people back in their seat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Even if they just had a roll call 5 minutes before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think is one of the things that drags out the House session, but in the Senate, it's like, okay, we'll be in recess for 30 seconds. Give everyone back to their seats. So
Yeah. Oh, very good. Now, is there anything that you preferred the way the House did it compared to the Senate?
No, I think there were a lot of things that were relatively similar. I mean,
Yep.
we do our research on issues in committee. We have more people in committee in the House than the Senate, but I think I don't know. I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
There, we run into the same issues sometime when it gets toward crossover or the end of the session.
Right.
With when we had a bill that just came into, I think it was transportation, and the testimony was over in the House they just got that like the day or two before it had to be out.
Oh wow.
So and a lot of times in things like that, there's just no time to do the due diligence on research that needs to be done. So in that way, you work with your counterparts in the House or the Senate to make sure that the issue gets totally vetted.
Very good. Now you have a re-election coming up in November if there's no primary. Are you planning on running for re-election?
Haven't decided yet, but let's say that I enjoy what I'm doing.
Oh, very good.
If I feel that I'm making a difference in people's lives and maybe countering some of the bad stuff that would come upon us, then I would certainly be inclined.
Oh, very good.
To keep my hat in there, because I do enjoy working with people and trying to solve some of the problems that we face on a daily basis.
Very good. Well, folks, if you see State Senator Gary Daniels' name on the primary ballot or the general election, good vote, good strong vote, good conservative. He's consistent. I would give my endorsement to Senator Daniels if I was to see his signs or name on the primary. We're at the end of the show. I thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Best
for the
of luck for the
invitation.
rest of the session. And if you do go for re-election, best of luck to you. You're the man for the job.
Thank you very much.
Good night and God bless.